Whether thou art a ghost that hath come from the earth, or a phantom of night that hath no home, or one that lieth dead in the desert, or a ghost unburied, or a demon, or a ghoul, whatever thou be until thou art removed, thou shalt find here no water to drink. Thou shalt not stretch forth thy hand to our own. Into our house enter thou not. Through our fence break through thou not. We are protected, though we may be frightened. Our life you may not steal, though we may be scared to death.
Welcome to Scared to Death, Creeps, Peepers, Roberts, and Annabelles. I'm Dan.
Hello, Dan. I'm Lulu Marie.
Hello, Lulu Marie.
She's back.
She's back.
She's back. Well, we're headed to the South sooner or later in this month, so I feel like, I got to bring her back. Got to dust her off the shelf.
Okay. I didn't even know she was on the shelf.
Well, last week I was Lynze.
Just one week's of shelf.
Well, yeah, she was sad, and she was like, what's going on? I thought we were headed to New Orleans in November. Why are you putting me aside now? It's rude. So, people in the South, they like their manners.
I want to thank everybody for the recent ratings and reviews, those who left them, that came in over the past few weeks. Seems like we found some new fans over Halloween week, which is exciting. Hope we can keep some of you new creeps and peepers around. Ratings and reviews, always so appreciated. So again, thank you so much. They help us a ton. And just a quick note, we are recording ahead of schedule due to being on the Crime Wave at Sea cruise. So next episode, we will announce the winner of the Bad Magic Street Team. So thanks to everybody who slapped those stickers all around the world. So fun to see them out in the wild. Yeah.
And if you were chosen, you probably would have already gotten a DM on Instagram or check your email because an email also would have gone out to you.
Yes.
So sorry that this is the last place for you to hear about it, but glad you did it.
Yeah. So Lulu Marie,
yes.
Which supposedly true listener tales are you going to share with us this week from those sent in to mystory at scaredtodeathpodcast.com?
Yes, Dan, thanks for asking. I have 2 tales this week. My first one's going to require some Kleenex. It's a bit of a sad story, but not that long ago, I did ask for tales from widows or widowers.
Yeah.
And so I have a tale, and I think it's just... I imagine it's how many of us are going to feel or experience the other side at some point in our life.
Okay.
So I felt very connected to it in a strange way.
A nice confirmation tale.
Yes. And then in my second story, we have a very interesting story about a man who goes for his daily multi-mile run and encounters someone else rather peculiar.
All right. I'm excited to hear those.
You better be.
For my first of 2, we will get a little scientific, actually.
Oh, I love science.
In 2024, a French researcher published an unprecedented study cataloging over 1,000 documented cases of poltergeist activity, and what he found was fascinating. From pots and pans stirring themselves in a Zimbabwean kitchen to an invisible attacker attacking children in the dead of night, all look into 2 terrifying modern cases that seem to match up with his findings. And then for my second story, we'll stick with the poltergeist theme and head back to 1968, when deep in the hills of eastern Kentucky, a quiet elderly couple named John and Ora Callahan claimed their farmhouse was under siege by something they couldn't see and couldn't pray away. Investigators and ministers alike fled the property. So once you have paid the toll of showing me this week's spoopy socks, I'll get started.
I love these socks. They are from a fan, and they are a throwback. Now, it says... Spooky chicken socks. Love the stories. Keep them coming. You all give me something to look forward to each and every week. Thank you. Chickenswithmom.com, aka Stacy. And I'm almost certain that Stacy, did you send in do you remember that weird chicken story all those years ago? I can't remember if the story comes from Stacy or if the story inspired the socks. But these ones are, say, Spoopy Season, House of the Naked Necked Chicken. They're so stupid and silly. I love them so much.
That's awesome.
I hope that you guys know when I say stupid, I mean like they're so ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, I picked this first one, just a few days after watching the latest Conjuring movie, Last Rites. I shared the haunting that movie was based on, the Smurl family haunting 4 years ago in the 9th bonus episode we did back in June of 2021, and it freaked me out then. And freaked me out all over again watching the movie, which I love, by the way. Lynze, you watched most of it. You hang in there. You were tired. You
said in the bonus episode that I fell asleep, but I never fell asleep. I was just scared.
Okay.
So I put the blanket over my face, and I think that you took that as she's asleep.
Yeah, I thought you nodded off for a little bit. Okay.
And I did think overall the movie could have been shaved down by 30 minutes. I don't like when things drag on unnecessarily.
All right. I liked the extra, but okay. Fair.
Well, considering that Monroe and her friend both fell asleep, I think that kind of says something.
Says you guys don't love horror as much as I do.
3-1, you lose.
Okay, so there is just something about the claim of an aggressive poltergeist that always freaks me out. They provide the foundation for my favorite horror movies, I think because they're so invasive. Like your home, your sanctuary, the place where you are supposed to escape from the dangers of the world, the place where you're supposed to be the safest has been invaded. Your haven has been turned into a hell. And one of the strangest things about poltergeist stories is how common they are. They're everywhere. Different countries, different cultures, different decades, even different centuries, yet they all sound strangely familiar. They've got a lot of the same noises, a lot of the same movements, the same invisible hands throwing the same damn objects. For generations, skeptics have written them off as pranks, hysteria, folklore, outright lies, or the leftover residue of superstition that modern science is supposedly buried. But I just came across a 2024 academic study on poltergeists that was published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Instead of dismissing poltergeists, it has documented them, mapped their anatomy, and found patterns too consistent to be easily explained away. Time now for the tale of the science of poltergeists. In the fall of 2024, French researcher Eric Dullin published something called A Detailed Phenomenology of Poltergeist Events in the Journal of Scientific Exploration. His goal was not to prove that ghosts exist. It wasn't even to argue for or against the supernatural. He just wanted to chart what was actually being reported, and to do that, he built a repository of more than 1,200 cases of alleged poltergeist activity stretching back over 100 years. And in doing so, he found patterns so specific and repetitive that even many skeptics would have to admit how strange it is for people across continents, cultures, and centuries to keep describing the same eerie and unusual things. Objects, Dullin wrote, are displaced, launched, or transported without identifiable mechanical cause. The trajectories are non-ballistic. Witnesses frequently describe an intelligence behind the movements as if the force has intent. He divided the phenomena into 4 major categories. The first, physical impacts on the environment. Furniture sliding, doors slamming, dishes shattering in midair, that sort of thing. The second, interactions with people. Scratches, slaps, hair pulled, sudden chills, and voices. The third, systematic features. The way disturbances cluster around one focus person, often a child or teenager under stress. And then 4, the termination. How the events stop, often when that person leaves or resolves some deep emotional conflict. He even noticed that roughly 73% of known focuses, the person around whom the activity centers, are under 20 years old, the majority of which are emotionally troubled teenagers, as we have discussed here anecdotally so many times before. And get this, Eric also logged where the violence tended to center: kitchens, bedrooms, and bathrooms. The domestic heart of a home, the places that are supposed to be the warmest and the safest. Now, to be fair, Dullin's conclusion was not that ghosts are real, it was that the pattern of poltergeist activity itself is real. And of course, it's still happening. So let's look at 2 recent cases, see how they measure up to Dullin's categorization. In the mountainous Nyanga region of Zimbabwe, a family of 5 claimed to have lived that pattern almost perfectly just a few years ago, in early 2022. The father, known locally as Tawanda Nakube, was a farmer, nothing fancy, a man who worked the same small plot his family had for generations. According to interviews published by the Fortean Times magazine and some local Facebook news pages, the haunting started small, a pot lid rattling on its own. Soon a wooden spoon clattered off the counter while no one was near it. And then one day the family's teenage daughter was stirring a pot of zadza, a thick maize porridge, when the cooking stick lifted out of her hand and kept stirring by itself. Tawanda said it was, quote, like a hand made of wind. However, they weren't scared. At first they laughed. A ghost cook? Knock yourself out. Thanks for the help. But their laughter soon turned to fear when the invisible hand began slamming cupboards, knocking food to the floor, even hurling hot oil dangerously across the room. It didn't feel so harmless anymore. And now the activity was constant. A neighbor told reporters she walked in and saw every utensil in the kitchen standing upright on their handles, like a surreal metallic forest. And the instant she screamed, they all fell flat at once. The longer this all went on, the more focused it seemed to become. Curiously, it always happened in the kitchen, and always when they were trying to eat or preparing food. Local elders whispered that Tawanda had stolen ritual stones, some sacred heirlooms, from another villager's property. Stones said to contain ancestral spirits from Zimbabwe's War of Independence. The spirits, they claimed, were hungry. Around the time that gossip started, voices began to be heard. Low mutters, like two people having a conversation just outside of the family's hut. No one could ever quite make out the words. Then one night the family woke up to the smell of cooking. A pot of zadza, thick and steaming, sat perfectly finished on the fire, with every utensil neatly laid out beside it. Was this a prank? If so, it was a good one. Every member of the family swore they'd been asleep for hours. Tawanda and his family did not eat the food. The next morning, he called in a Christian pastor from a nearby mission to bless their home. The pastor prayed, sprinkled water, recited psalms, and then as he finished, a heavy wooden spoon shot across the room and struck him square in the chest. He left shaken. Finally, a local healer named Father Simeon, a name that appears in several African exorcism records actually, came over and performed a night-long cleansing. There were drums, smoke, and chanting. And by dawn, the activity stopped. And from what I can tell based on media reports, it has not started back up again. Within Dullin's framework, this Nyanga haunting ticks pretty much every box. Localized disturbances, the kitchen in this case, directed energy, everything was centered around food. The activity was focused on someone under 20, the teenage daughter, and a sudden and total termination. There's another pattern, Dolan noted, that hopefully Tawanda Nkube will not have to deal with. He wrote, a minority of cases cease after ritual intervention. In those, recurrence within 24 months is not rare. Hopefully that spirit, or whatever it was, doesn't come back. Now let's look at one more recent claim of poltergeist activity, coincidentally also in Africa, as we continue to explore poltergeist activity within that framework of Dolan's study. 2 years later, another Zimbabwean family would claim that stones would seemingly fall from the sky, utensils would float through the air on their own, and a monk would be called to cleanse the home. Was it the same force? A copycat haunting? We don't know, but Dolan would probably call it predictable. If the Nyanga haunting felt folkloric, domestic, even ritualistic, this next one is more of a true nightmare. Early last year, in 2024, in Makwekwe North, a suburb of Bulawayo, another Zimbabwean family contacted police with a report that made national headlines. An invisible entity was attacking their children. According to coverage from iHeart News and Coast to Coast AM, the trouble began in January when the parents noticed something strange one morning. Their 8-year-old son, Tino, came out of his bedroom crying. Why? Because he had had his head completely shaved while he slept. Little man had went to bed with hair, then woke up with no hair. And there was no hair in his pillow, no clippers in the house. What the hell? At first, everyone thought it was a cruel prank, maybe a jealous friend or an older cousin had snuck in, but the door had been locked from the inside. The windows were barred, and he wouldn't have slept through that. A few nights later, it happened again, but this time to the family's 5-year-old daughter. Her head was also cleanly shaved. Again, went to bed with hair, woke up with none, and none would be found anywhere around her. Can you imagine? Then came the knife. Late one night in February, the father of this family, a man named Blessing Moyo, heard his son Tino screaming. He rushed into his bedroom, found the boy bleeding from a deep cut in his thigh. A knife lay on the floor beside him, and no one else was there. No part of him thought his son had self-harmed. It truly appeared as if he had been woken up by being stabbed. Blessing called the police that same night. Officers came over and searched the home, trying to make sense of what had happened. They found no intruder, no evidence of anyone having intruded before sneaking away, and they left shaking their heads. After the police left, the situation escalated even further. Various objects started to fly around on their own. Cupboards banged open and shut. The family heard footsteps in the hallway, but they would find no one there making them. At one point, a large, heavy wardrobe dragged itself a full 2 feet across the floor. Neighbors said they heard the children screaming almost every night. When local pastors tried to perform deliverance prayers, they said the force fought back, lights flickering, their hands growing cold as they tried to hold their Bible steady. One pastor, according to a local tabloid, shouted, "Leave these children, demon!" And then he heard a voice, low and male sounding, answer him from across the room. "They are mine." The Moyos ended up fleeing their home to stay with some relatives in another suburb. And for the next 2 weeks, nothing happened. But then the same disturbances began there. Footsteps, whispers, objects moving. It got so bad the extended family they were staying with made them leave. And as far as I know, they are still being tormented by something. No exorcism, no prayer, no ritual reported has been able to stop whatever is happening. The last known interview with Blessing Moyo, published late last spring, ends with a single line. "We don't sleep anymore. We just wait for the next night." While different than the previous case, this haunting also follows much of Dullin's framework. Physical impacts on the environment. Right? Various objects flying around on their own, cupboards banging open and shut, a large heavy wardrobe dragging itself a full 2 feet across the floor. Interactions with people. A child being stabbed. Hair being taken somehow. A demonic voice stating they are mine. Systematic features. The disturbances seem to cluster around children. Again, people under the age of 20. But no termination in this case, at least not yet that we know of. When Dullin's study came out, one of his most unsettling findings was statistical. He discovered that roughly half of all documented cases end not because someone solves them, but because the family simply moves away. When that happens, the phenomena often stops, but not always, like with the Moyo family. Sometimes something follows. And he called this, quote, "contagion of phenomena, a haunting that behaves like an infection." Pretty creepy analogy. Eric Dullin's paper ends in a way most scientific papers do not. Instead of a tidy conclusion, he writes what reads like a warning. If one were to accept the phenomenology as real, the implication is that human emotion may occasionally acquire mechanical effect. Anger, fear, grief, these are powerful energies. Perhaps sometimes the world listens. He proposed no supernatural cause, just a fascinating possibility we've mentioned here before, that intense emotion can somehow distort reality itself, which sounds wild. But it also sounds like it possibly could explain what happened to the Nyanga, or in Nyanga, what might be still happening to the Moyo family. I wish we knew more about the family dynamics, what emotional turmoil those kids may still be experiencing. Dullin's data shows that most focused individuals are either grieving or in conflict, emotionally raw, which makes you wonder, what happens if that's true on a more national scale? A country burdened by decades of post-colonial trauma, economic hardship, spiritual tension. Could that collective energy fuel something? Maybe sometimes what we call a haunting isn't a ghost. Maybe it's the echo of a multitude of unresolved emotions, looking for somewhere to land. Maybe sometimes it lands in a kitchen in Nyanga, or in a young child's bedroom in Bulawayo.
If I woke up without my hair,
Yeah.
I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
I love my hair.
Yeah,
There's
I love your hair too.
Thank you. I really do I know I hope that everyone has at least one feature of their body that they love, and mine is my hair. I really love my hair. So I felt so sad.
Yeah.
So sad. I'm like, that would be awful. And then okay, little boys maybe can get over it a little bit faster, but then the little girl, I was especially sad for her. And then obviously, okay, but nobody's harmed. It's superficial. It's hair grows back. It's you're not actually hurt.
Yeah.
It's strange and upsetting. And I imagine before you go to bed for a while, you're like, is tonight the night I'm going to lose my hair again?
Oh my God, yeah.
Because it's so odd that there was no trace of hair anywhere either.
I know, so weird.
So peculiar. And the thought of okay, unless you're a face down, face in pillow sleeper, your head would have to be moved. It has to shift your head. I'm a side sleeper.
Yeah.
So someone's going to have to rotate me.
Yeah.
To get all the way around. So it was so upsetting on so many levels. And then to be stabbed.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I know.
That's obviously way more worse than way more worse. Yeah.
Way worse.
Way worse. That's way more worse. I like that. I'm going to say it my way.
Sure.
Lulu Marie says it's way more worse. To then be stabbed.
You should just add way more worser. If you're going to add more worse, just take it even further. Way more worsest. No, just way more worse.
I won't remember to say it that way.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I just have to stick with way more worse. My memory's not great. But yeah, that's to hear your kids screaming from another room.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think a little kid is going to stab themselves either. Like, this doesn't sound like it sounds like it was addressed. The
Yeah.
parent thought, like, this isn't a self-harm situation.
I mean, I did have this thought of like, are these kids being abused?
I know, I had that too.
Right? Is somebody like making them not say anything that like, oh, I don't know how my hair got shaved and I don't know how I got stabbed. But then, there's reports, at least in these articles about it, that other people, pastors and things from the area were also witnessing poltergeist activity, hearing voices, seeing things moving about.
Yeah.
Which adds, more credence to the claim of the parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to have a ghost cook. I was very much into that in the first
helping you
situation.
stir stuff and keep an eye on the stove.
Yeah, or just do
Just
it all.
Making stuff. I know that they woke up and then they
Ghost
had
chef.
that salsa was just waiting for them.
Oh my God, how great would that be? You just wake up in the morning, there's a nice like plate of bacon and eggs.
Oh my God.
Nice fresh
That would be
biscuits.
pretty amazing.
Oh my God.
You just wake up to the smell of there's something great about waking up to the smell of bacon.
Oh,
just
yeah.
wake up to the smell of bacon and fresh biscuits in the oven.
Oh,
and
fresh squeezed OJ.
Oh, yeah, some gravy.
Oh,
And you're
man.
just
Do you
like,
wanna
thank you, ghost.
Do you want to have breakfast for dinner?
Yes.
Okay, I'm on it.
Okay, awesome.
Biscuits and gravy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so such a cool study. It's just so cool that Eric Dolan guy, and here's a picture of him actually, the first one, that this French researcher just, looked at over 1,200 cases of poltergeist activity and systematically looked at like, what are the themes here? What keeps happening? What are the major categories? How often does this happen? Broke it down into percentages. I mean, there was a lot more information than I didn't share. Just very cool.
I think it's what am I trying to say? I don't know as we progress forward as a society if scientists are going to be more open to studying the paranormal.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there is a certain degree of studies anyways, that have always existed or what have you. But as the world kind of gets smaller in the way that like we have more easy access to information and we're more easily connected, Eric Dolan in France can now contact, an American scientist where that wasn't so easily done many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it already exists, but like the scientific study of like getting a degree, a scientific degree of studying paranormal, ghost, poltergeist, like it could be really cool in our lifetime. We could actually solve the mystery.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
I know. Or does that ruin the mystery of it
Well,
all?
it depends on what the answer is. Yeah, if the answer like deepens the mystery, maybe like we solve some questions, but then get more questions as we kind of like keep going further, like exploring further and further into the paranormal, that would be cool. But if we quote unquote solve it and it's just like not that exciting.
It's just like it's kinetic energy. Ta-da. Just like
some
some
like weird residual electricity thing that like they're not actually sentient, but I don't know.
I know. I think we'd be sad.
Yes, true.
To some degree anyways.
So this next photo, just a little collage of photos from researchgate.net, as was the first photo of Tawanda Nkube's home in Nyanga. So just this is very rural, kind of area. And then this next one comes from the Fortean Times magazine. It's the bedroom where the 8-year-old boy Tino was allegedly attacked repeatedly in Makwekwe North. So just, not an exciting picture. But and then this thing is an illustration from a news article about the Makwekwe North poltergeist found in a news article on iHeart.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, that was fun. It was different, but I really enjoyed all of the science.
Yeah. I just think it's cool that someone took the time to do that.
Yeah.
And gave us, some definitive categories.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, ready to jump into another poltergeist case?
Oh, am I?
Okay, let's see how one more story lines up with Dolan's poltergeist criteria. There's never been a shortage of disturbing paranormal stories coming from out of the Appalachian hollers. Strange stories that are sometimes whispered over front porch coffee, other times preached about from the pulpit. Stories about things that scratch at your windows at night or make doors appear to slam on their own. And in the fall of 1968, one of the most intense and detailed of these types of stories came out of a little Kentucky town called Olive Hill, where a quiet elderly couple named John and Ora Callahan found their faith tested by something unseen and possibly unholy. Time now for the tale of the Callahan poltergeist. Just a little ways outside of Olive Hill, Kentucky, November 15th, 1968. Tucked into a steep wooded valley called Henderson Branch, the Callahans lived the kind of simple life much of the rest of America was already starting to move away from. John was a semi-retired farmer, strong, polite, and quiet, the kind of man who said grace before every meal. Ora, his wife, was known for her cooking, her kindness, and her habit of reading her Bible every night by lamplight. They had 2 grown sons living nearby and a handful of grandkids who visited them on the weekends and sometimes during the week as well. Life was good for the couple. Simple, quiet, predictable, and peaceful. Until one night it wasn't. It began with noises. Ora was in the kitchen washing up after dinner when she claimed to have first heard it. A sharp tap on the window. She looked up expecting to see one of her grandkids playing a prank on her. But no one was there. And then it came again. Bang! Louder this time, like a rock striking the glass. Curious but not afraid, she stepped onto the porch to investigate. Perhaps a bird had flown into the window. It wouldn't have been unheard of. And now maybe it was hurt. But there was no bird to be found. There wasn't anything to be found. The night was still. All the sounds around her were the typical sounds heard after sundown in rural Kentucky. There was no strange sights either, just the normal shadows created by the light of the moon glinting off the creek that cut through their property. But then after a few moments, she heard a third sound, and not what sounded like a pebble hitting a window, but a thud from inside the house. She walked back in and found her husband also investigating what was happening. And what had just happened was a picture frame had fallen from the wall in the living room. John had picked it up and froze. It was their frame print of Jesus, the one that had hung above their mantel for years. The glass had shattered cleanly right across the image of Christ's face. Ora whispered, "That ain't a good sign." Over the next few days, both Ora and John began to regularly hear a variety of unusual noises. Unexplained tapping and knocking, sometimes coming from inside the walls, other times coming from beneath the floor. They'd hear dishes rattling in their cupboards, and their furniture would tremble as if a ghost train was flying past their house on invisible tracks. It was odd, unsettling, but they could handle it. They could live with the noises. But then more breaking began. First it was the window panes. Next it was some pictures. Then one night, damn near every single framed photo in the hallway, one after another, crashed to the floor, glass shattering like a string of gunshots. When John and Ora cleaned the mess, they realized something that made Ora sick to her stomach. The only photographs that had been left untouched were the ones of their dead relatives. The rest had been ruined, and every picture that had fallen had landed face down. That wasn't a good sign either. Soon some of their neighbors began to hear the commotion, and those neighbors, in a town of only around 1,200 people at the time, they began to gossip. Before long, the whole town was talking about it, and some tried to help the Callahans, mostly men from the nearby Pentecostal church. They thought that maybe some unruly local teens were throwing rocks or shooting pellets. They didn't understand how these kids could have shaken the house and knocked photos off of the walls, but they hoped to figure that out. But then when they were inside, they heard banging coming from inside the walls. And now they knew with certainty that whatever was happening, it had nothing to do with any hell-raising hooligans. The tapping they heard was nothing that could have come from any mice in the walls or squirrels or even raccoons. As one man later told a local reporter, it was like the devil himself was trapped in there, kicking to get out. And then soon, as if to drive the point further home that whatever was going on in the Callahan house had no natural or living origin, on the night of November 20th, as some men from church prayed in the living room with the Callahans, a mirror exploded. No one was touching it. No one was even near it. And yet the glass blew outwards into the room with enough force to slice one man's arm badly and embed a shard in the wood floor. They all agreed it sounded like a gunshot. It scared Ora so bad, she screamed and dropped her Bible. And when she picked it back up, she noticed something that scared her further still. The cover was wet, with what looked like a few drops of blood. But neither she nor anyone else had been bleeding near it. Within a week, word spread throughout all of Carter County that the Callahan home was haunted. Some reporters came from the Daily Independent out of Ashland. Even some folks from Lexington drove up into the holler to see for themselves. And according to John, the new attention only made it worse. He said the thing, whatever it was like it seemed to feed on being watched. The louder the prayers, the harder the walls shook. When a preacher from Grayson, a slightly larger town just 15 miles down the way, came to bless the home, 3 glasses simultaneously exploded in the sink, as he said, in the name of Jesus Christ. That's when Ora begged him to stop. She said the house didn't want to be blessed. The preacher didn't listen to her. He refused to be intimidated by what he now considered a demonic force, and he sprinkled holy water and shouted verses until his voice went hoarse. And then as he was leaving, thinking maybe he had banished the spirit, he looked back and saw the strangest thing. That framed picture of Jesus, The one that had shattered days earlier when everything started. It was once again hanging on the wall. And even more incredible, the glass frame was no longer broken, but now it was melted, warped like the heat from a blowtorch had run over it. The incident shook him up so bad he never came back. New visitors would soon take his place. In early December, Dr. William G. Roll and his assistant, Dr. Rex Stanford, both from the Psychical Research Foundation, located on the campus of Duke University in North Carolina, they arrived to study the haunting. We've actually met Dr. Roll here before as an investigator of other hauntings. Roll and Stanford had both just come off another case in Tennessee and wanted to document this one before it faded, like so many poltergeist cases do. They found Aura, calm but exhausted, when they arrived, her hands shaking as she served them coffee. John, also looking haggard, told them that in the last 2 weeks, objects had been thrown, a kerosene lamp had been witnessed shattering midair, and now most disturbing, strange voices were being heard whispering from the attic late at night. The investigators set up cameras and motion sensors, and then they waited. And for hours, absolutely nothing happened. But then just after midnight, the power flickered. And the moment it did, a strong gust of cold wind passed through the living room, even though every door and window in the house was closed. Dr. Roll wrote later that he soon heard, quote, 3 heavy knocks from inside the plaster wall, rhythmic and deliberate, followed by a distinct sigh that seemed to move through the air. This investigation became part of a book published in 1972 called The Poltergeist. William G. Roll wrote in it that this was the only time he knows of where 2 parapsychologists both saw the beginning stages of objects moving by themselves. When the pair left 2 days later, Dr. Roll told the Callahans something Aura would never forget. He said, quote, "We don't think this is a haunting. We think it's a manifestation. Someone in this house is hurting, and the house is showing it." Who was hurting, he didn't know. And neither Aura nor John volunteered that it was either of them. Some have speculated that one of their teenage grandkids spent a lot of time in their home, was emotionally troubled, and was present for a lot of this activity. After the investigators left, things quieted down for a while. The Callahans patched the holes, replaced the glass, and tried to return to living some semblance of the normal life they'd had before. But every night, Aura still heard faint knocks from inside the walls, 3 at a time. Then just before Christmas, they found the basement flooded. Even though there had been no rain, no busted pipe. The water was clear and cold, and when John dipped his hand into it, he said it, quote, felt alive, like there was a web of static electricity running through his fingers. The next morning, the water was gone. Not drained, just gone, like it had never been there at all. By January of 1969, the disturbances in the Callahan house had stopped completely, and John and Aura lived in the house another 8 years before moving closer to town. They never spoke publicly about it again, though a few people swore that Aura still would not hang any pictures on her walls. When she died in 1981, the preacher who led her funeral said she'd asked to be buried with her Bible open to Psalm 91, the one about protection from the snare of the fowler and the terror of night. There are rumors that the haunting of John and Aura's home was not the first time a poltergeist showed up in Henderson Branch. Supposedly half a century earlier, in 1918, although not as well documented, similar unexplainable happenings occurred there. And there are additional rumors that the current owners of the property also have heard strange sounds and seen strange sights. Following Dullen's framework once more, physical impacts on the environment. Yes, pictures flew off the wall, knocking sounds were heard, a basement flooded, a mirror exploded, and more. Interactions with people? Definitely. 3 glasses in a sink exploded in response to a prayer. A mirror shot shards of glass into a man and into the floor in response to another prayer. The more praying and overall interest in the activity, the more activity the poltergeist displayed. Systematic features, yep, this poltergeist might have focused on a teen, or might not have, even though there's rumors about that, but it did at least focus primarily on Aura, and the psychical researchers felt the activity was based on someone in the house, quote, hurting. Determination? Yes, it seems that by January of 1969, the disturbances in the Callahan house had stopped completely not long after the basement flooding. Of course, there's rumors, kind of vague rumors, that maybe something happened there half a century earlier and then it happened there again recently, but that particular poltergeist activity did stop. So such a strange pattern, and one we are bound to re-examine here time and time again, and one that hopefully someday we have some definitive answers as to what exactly is behind this pattern.
That flooded basement sitch.
I know. So weird, right?
Like, what?
Uh-huh.
Just you go down there the next day, it's just bone dry, no water damage, no marks on the walls, no damp carpet or other like absorbent items. What the hell?
I know. Some really weird occurrences in these stories today, like the heads being shaved.
Yeah.
With no hair being found, and then the basement flooding, and then just drying out like so quickly. Like flooding so quickly and then drying out so quickly like it never was flooded.
Yeah, my childhood home flooded every time it rained.
Oh, okay.
Just, whatever. And so when you were saying that, I'm like, it would have been great if we would have woke up the next day and it was like, no problem.
Yeah,
Instead of it was like box fans and, like slopping up water for days on end.
Uh-huh. I only have a few pictures.
Okay.
For this one. This first one, an old newspaper article. This was posted on AppalachianHistory.net. A photo of John and Aura looking into a piece of their busted mirror. And the
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you for explaining what the picture was because I was so confused.
Yeah, and then the title of the article in this old paper, Science, Religion, Clash. Poltergeist chases family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can just kind of see their faces there through that glass. Or I guess reflected in the glass there, rather.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a supposed picture of John and Aura's house from an article about all this on Facebook.
Okay, that's a very creepy photo. It feels intentionally creepy.
I know. Just, this is the way it's filtered and stuff.
Ugh.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, no, thank you. Also, Kentucky's great.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like Kentucky.
I like Kentucky too. I haven't been there in a while. But I've been to Louisville numerous times over the years and Lexington. And then that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, me too. But I just was like really impressed.
Bowling Green, I guess I went there, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was just like really impressed with Louisville. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like your governor. He seems like a good guy. Andy Bashir, big fan.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Just like seems like a real walk the walk, talk the talk Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that man a lot.
I don't know much about him, or I'd have more of an opinion. But I hear of you. I know you've spoken of him favorably.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of speeches he's given, a lot of interviews, and he just seems like a really good guy. And I mean, I don't live there, so I can't speak to the economic troubles or things that he does or doesn't do. But from the outside looking in, it looks like he has a really healthy economic plan for Kentucky.
It's a pretty state. I know just driving through it, years ago, very, very pretty. Lots of like big horse ranches and stuff. I never actually have been to a horse race like the Kentucky Derby or even like a tiny one, like a local one where people bet on it. Never done that.
Yeah, me either.
But they're pretty. Just like driving by, like not the racetrack, but driving by all the ranches and
the horse properties and such.
Yeah.
But you don't like horses.
I like to look at them from afar, but I don't need to be up close to them.
Yeah. I like horses.
Mm-hmm.
I am intrigued by their how smart they are.
Yeah, they do have like weirdly smart eyes.
Yeah, so intelligent.
Yeah, I know. Last time I encountered one up close, I was actually a couple years ago hiking with Monroe down around Riggins, and there was this horse just sitting there, and I think we had an apple to give it. We gave it something. And I remember it was pretty jacked to get a little snack. But then the way it just stares at you afterwards, it's like, man, there's a lot going on in that head.
I know.
They seem very smart.
Whales, dolphins, horses, like there's just
pigs.
Are pigs really smart?
Pigs are really smart.
Don't tell me that I like bacon too much.
Oh, those ones are dumb.
Okay, great.
The bacon pigs are dumb.
Oh, thank you,
Jesus. But the non-bacon pigs are very smart.
I really didn't know that about pigs. I thought the pigs were dumb.
No, they're very smart.
No. What about cows?
I don't know. Opinions are mixed.
Okay.
I know there's some people who are like, no, like there's some people who get mad when you say that cows are dumb. My experience with cows, just being around them in Riggins when I've encountered them, I don't see at least the same intelligence in their eyes that I see with a horse.
Okay.
But maybe that's because I didn't want to. Maybe it's because,
Because you like hamburger.
Because I like hamburgers, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, have you got yourself a little Layla?
I do. I got a blue Layla this week. Yep.
All right. Well, let's dive in. Get your tissues ready. This is a tearjerker.
Okay.
Greetings. I'm a big fan of the show, having started listening in the very early into the run. I hope you two keep the spooks coming. In episode 292, you mentioned being interested in knowing anything about odd experiences for those of us who are widows. My story isn't scary at all, but here it is anyways. But first, some background. My wife Tammy and I met in our very early 20s, in college at a Dungeons & Dragons table I was hosting. During our first date, she informed me that she had cystic fibrosis and likely wouldn't live through her 30s, maybe 40s. I like to say that I went through some soul searching after that date, questioning whether it was worth risking falling in love with someone with whom I'd probably and vastly outlive. In truth, my heart was already decided on the matter before I'd even really asked the question. A month in, we were already dedicated companions. We had that old married couple banter down within 2 months, and we would often perform it for the entertainment of ourselves and our friends. Within 3 months, we knew we were set for life. We were very tuned into each other. I could echolocate her in a store simply by the sound of her CF-enhanced cough, which she would even modify for a few different meanings. We never did get properly married, but that was only because of legalese insurance issues. Doing so would have cost her Social Security income and insurance, and her medications would have been impossible to afford on mine. So, for most of our relationship, we'd still refer to each other as husband and wife, and all of our friends and family considered us married. Anyone with a partner like that likely knows how it feels when your partner is around you, next to you. Their energy, their movements, silent or otherwise, their gait, their stance, their breathing or lack thereof. You always know when they're nearby, even if they're otherwise silent. We had almost exactly 13 wonderful years together, down to the week, if not the day. Best friends, confidants, soulmates, lovers, each other's number one fans, and even first pick for a co-op partner, and always next to me at the gaming table. That was us. She passed away October 24th, 2015, of what amounts to the natural end of someone with CF. And yes, it's true what they say about the world permanently losing a little bit of its color when someone like that leaves your life, or at least it is for me. All of this preamble, of course. To make this shorter, on the day she passed, I said my goodbyes and left the hospital room, leaving her behind one last time. The loss of my partner was immeasurable, but we'd emotionally been preparing for this eventuality all of our relationship. Despite the crushing loss, I was happy for her in one distinct way. Afterlife or no, she was no longer bound to a failing, useless body. No pain, only peace. Walking out of the hospital room, though, I felt her fall into stride next to me. To my right, where she would always walk. I felt her babble excitedly, keeping pace with me, which had long been impossible. Nearly bounding ahead as though rejoicing to no longer be in a body that held her back so much. She was there, in every way but the physical. The energy, the movements, the words unsaid but still felt. I felt her ride down the elevator with me, and even though I'd watched her die less than an hour before, on our worst day together, I couldn't help but smile on the way down, listening to the silent echo of the words I could feel more than hear. She was here, with me one last time, on the way out, and I could feel her joy in that as well, at finally being free. I spoke to her in that elevator and hold what amounted to our last conversation. Again, I can't emphasize enough that I could understand exactly what she was saying in every sense except the physically audio, and I equally could feel that these sensations were external to me, however true that might actually be. We held hands. I could feel her press against me. I could feel the pressure of her presence. All of these, much as you can with someone who isn't physically there. Landing on the ground floor, we walked to the front doors and exited. Once outside, I paused and I felt her do the same, as though she were reveling in the ability to walk outside again. One last sensation of joy, of what I felt amounted to freedom. She would have hated being a hospital ghost, having told me a few weird experiences of her own in the past. One last loving goodbye, and then her energy sort of dissipated skyward. Not in a I'm going to heaven sense, but more like an enclosed mist being exposed to an open window and fading upwards. Even then, I felt her excitement to be mobile once more, to dance in the sky, to be able to finally walk and run and ultimately fly. Despite my immense loss, I was smiling for her all the way back to the car. I've felt her presence many times in the years since, though I've never seen her, except in the occasional dream. Usually, it's when I'm watching or reading something, and then a thought strikes me as though she was right next to me and just said something directly into my ear. I've laughed out loud when this has happened. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like I'm hearing the outlines, the energy, and motions of her words instead of actually hearing them. I have felt her presence fall in place beside me, past her in the hallway of my residence. I have felt her sit down next to me on the couch, whisper the occasional bit of advice, or running mistake-like commentary. The energy of her presence is the same in every sense of the physical. Have you ever watched Netflix's Haunting of Hill House with the dad who has conversations with the spirit of his wife? Sometimes it's been as intense as that, just without the audiovisual hallucinations, even though I could absolutely tell you where she was sitting or standing. I still don't know if I believe that ghosts are real and or if her ghost is really visiting me, or if all of these sensations are just my mind pasting amalgamated memories of our experiences together into similar situations that I know she'd react to. I couldn't prove it to you either way, but I can say these experiences are real to me, such as they are. These experiences have slowly been fading over the past 10 years, but even now, I sometimes feel or hear her chime in. I guess I'll find out when I go. I hope so. We have a lot of tabletop gaming stories to catch up on. Thanks for reading, Zim.
Oh, thank you, Zim. Wow.
It's like fighting tears, that whole story.
Yeah. I was trying not to look at you just to make it worse. What a powerful love between Zim and Tammy.
Yeah, and just like, I don't know, there's something I think to be said, like maybe when, you are so deeply connected to somebody, I don't think it has to necessarily be your lifelong partner.
Yeah.
But maybe there's something to be said about like, when a parent passes, we haven't lost a parent yet, but like somebody that you're so deeply invested in, that you've shared so many memories with, maybe you do just feel them forever if you're open to it.
I know. And let's say this is not a ghost story, but just like, just based on like the powerful emotions of love that Zim felt.
Yeah.
That's also really beautiful and amazing.
Yeah, and I think magical.
Yeah, magical. Exactly. Magical is a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could feel something so intensely that it truly does feel as if they're holding your hand, that they're walking beside you, getting into the elevator as you leave the hospital, showing up in the hallway, just showing up here and there throughout your life. I mean, I like to believe that it is something, spiritual, but whatever it is, it's just like something is so magical there, whether it's our brains, whether it's the universe around us, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah. And I think it's cool too, because I think about like, okay, when you're traveling and I'm at home, it's like I do still feel your presence in the house. It's like just like the way that like maybe something is arranged, or like the way the pillows are, or it's not just like the smell of your cologne lingering in the air.
Yeah.
There's like I don't know. We do leave an energy behind, I believe, everywhere we go. So it's like, or like, even better example, Kyler's away at college.
Yeah.
I still feel him in that house.
Yeah.
It's like these little things. So if that's true in life, why not be true in death? And perhaps even more stronger, I guess, because now maybe you are on the other side, like pushing more energy into those spaces that you used to take up. I don't know. There's something about it that like got to me.
Yeah. I mean, there is something just so inherently fascinating, which I think is probably the main reason that a podcast like this exists, that horror books exist, that horror movies exist, all this. There's theories out there that a lot of this has to do with like our own curiosity about death, our interest in things in the other side, because it is such a crazy thing in life that everybody who has come before us, they have two things in common. They were born and they died.
Yeah.
And all of us currently alive today have two things in common, you know, that we were born and that we are going to die. It's such a crazy thing that we are all marching towards death. The second you're born, you start that walk.
Yeah.
And that none of us truly know for sure what awaits us.
Yeah. Or when it's coming,
or when it's coming.
Like, because it is a strange, death is a strange thing.
Yeah. We all carry that knowledge with us at all time that this is finite.
Yeah.
And we do our best to kind of avoid it.
Oh my God, yeah. I don't like to think about it.
No, but it's lingering there. And yes, it's scary, and yes, it can be sad, but there's also such great wonder around it.
Yeah.
Think about how many people are deeply religious all around the world.
Oh my gosh, they're going to get their answers one day.
Yeah, so much of their focus of their life through their religion is, I want to know what's going to happen to me. like when I die.
Yeah.
That is, I would say, the largest appeal of religion. What's awaiting outside of, this life. And then, many of us who are not religious but spiritual, it's just, it's totally fascinating.
Yeah. And we're funny about death too. I just like thinking about my own parents. Like, my dad will do zero preparation. He has like a sheet of paper that has like some phone numbers. Here's who you call.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my parents are divorced, in case you missed that along the way. My mom emailed me this week. This past week, she just finalized her her funeral plans. She's paid for her funeral. She's picked out the casket she wants, the color of the liner.
The strippers. She has the strippers picked out, but chosen by name.
Yes. Yeah. It starts with this guy, Mike.
Outfits, very specific outfits dressed.
Thongs, all thongs.
Sparkly,
Yes.
a lot of sparkles.
A lot of sparkles. She picked out some fancy pasties for herself.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. Like she did like
open casket pasties.
Yeah, she did like, there's like, she has really thought about it. Like, I want these Bible verses. I want these visiting hours. I want to be, and I'm like, maybe that gives you a sense of control. Like it's a fake, it's a false sense of control.
And just a responsibility. Your mom's a responsible person that way too.
Yeah. But it's so interesting. Just like two people, I'm sure that you guys could all relate to that. Two wildly different approaches to this thing that they know is coming.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I could talk about death forever.
Just to be very clear, I haven't written it down, but for my death, I do want my body to be catapulted. I want a giant
load the Greg?
Yeah, exactly. Load the Dan. I want this giant catapult. And then I want down, where I'm probably going to land, I want a series of like targets. And then like,
do they have points on them?
Yeah, they have numbers.
Okay.
And so when you attend the funeral, you get a number from one of those.
Okay.
And then if my body hits the target with your number, you win a special funeral prize.
Okay. I had a very different plan for your funeral.
Oh.
We can adjust, definitely.
Okay. What was your plan?
My plan was to get together all of our favorite people and do a lot of drugs and then light you on fire and sort of like dance around.
Pyre. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's also nice. There's
no prizes, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, let's have that one be Plan C. Plan A is
Plan C.
Plan A is yes. Plan B, and I don't know if the tech is going to be there, but I want like an animatronic exoskeleton.
Okay.
So that like at one point during the service, and I don't want people to know that I have this, and then I want Michael Jackson's Thriller to start playing, boom 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 dun 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 dun, and then I just pop out of the casket and I do the Thriller dance.
I do think.
Yeah.
I do think it would be in our best interest while we're of sound mind to actually map out some really fun funeral plans.
True.
So that God forbid anything happen.
Yeah.
Soon. We've got the plan. And then best case scenario, we live for a really long time.
Yeah.
And we have really funny plans for our kids to execute for us.
Yes, true.
I want a Viking funeral. I'm very into it.
Oh, I do like that. Like somebody shoots a flaming arrow out over a body of water and you're out there floating on a bundle of sticks, like a little raft kind of thing, wooden raft.
Yeah.
And then
maybe there could be like a band playing or something. Like we could because I don't know if you know, but I'm a really big personality and I kind of am a bit dramatic.
Yeah.
And so I think it's got to be something big, bold, beautiful, and dramatic.
What if there's a band on your funeral raft fire and they get the longer
how long can they play? It's sort of like the Titanic.
Yeah, the longer they can stay and play while it's burning, then the more money they get.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Does anybody have fun funeral plans? Like I have like funeral songs. I have things. I'm like, I want a party.
Yeah. I do like that.
Fucking party.
Yeah, I do like that.
It's sad, but like it's all part of life. All right. So sorry for that intermission. Let's dive into...
Not sorry. You're welcome for all that fun.
For all those inspirational ideas for your future funerals. That should be a business. Fun funerals.
There you go.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Does that exist? Somebody tell us, or let us know if they want to start that business. I'll give you the name. Let's read another fun story. Hey, Dan and Lynze.
Hello.
I'm a longtime fan of Scared to Death and have been listening since 2019. I've always believed in ghosts to some extent, although up until recently, I'd had zero experiences with the paranormal. I'm still not 100% sure what I experienced, but as time goes by, I'm almost convinced I had an interaction with a spirit. I live in a small town in northern Colorado called Johnstown. It's a very rural area about an hour north of Denver and 25 minutes south of Fort Collins. Up until very recently, Johnstown was a tiny, unknown podunk dot on the map with nothing but farms and ranches and had a population under 10,000. We moved here from downtown Denver during the housing frenzy of the pandemic. During that time, subdivisions were going up like crazy all along the I-25 corridor, and Johnstown, as an undiscovered gem with cheap land, was caught up in it. This year, which I don't know what year he sent this in, this year, Johnstown really became known as the newest Buc-ee's in America, was built right off our exit on Highway 60. There's a small, charming historical downtown that makes up what Johnstown used to be, and then scattered, sprawling subdivisions on the periphery. We live in one of those new cookie-cutter subdivisions about a mile from downtown, right off the 60 highway. Our subdivision, luckily, does not have any new development around it, although I am sure that will soon change. For now, we are surrounded by farmland on 3 sides. It really is quite beautiful, though in odd contrast. You have people like us living in these new homes who have moved from elsewhere within the last 3 years, stacked up right against next to farmers and ranchers whose families have likely occupied the same plot of land since before Colorado was even a state. Just to the north of our neighborhood, just outside of the boundary line of our subdivision, is an old train track that runs from east to west, right in between the subdivision and the adjacent farms. Every day, before and after work, I go for a run on this track. Running is meditative for me, helps me prepare for my day in the morning, and helps me decompress for my day after work. I usually do about 2 miles each time, running west to east in the morning, running west in the morning and east in the evening. I'm not sure when these tracks stopped being used, but it must have been a long time ago, because there are weeds and bushes growing all over them, there are wood beams missing everywhere, and, in general, in complete disrepair. Usually when I go for my runs, I don't see anyone, except for the occasional suburban mom walking their dog in the morning or evening, or a farmer in the distance tending to their land or repairing a fence. It is the perfect quiet spot to be all alone with my thoughts and get a good sweat on while listening to the birds and crickets chirping away. About 2 weeks ago, my wife was out shopping and I had wrapped up work for the day. I texted her, telling her I was going on a run, laced up my shoes, and set off down my usual path to the back of the neighborhood, past the retention pond and onto the tracks to run my normal eastbound route. It was a beautiful September evening, perfect temperature, sunny, with a tiny bit of cloud cover in the distance, almost dusk. The perfect conditions for running. I had just finished a rather stressful day at work and was looking forward to being alone with my thoughts and running off the stress and worry for the day. I was keeping a good pace down the tracks and was about halfway to the historic downtown when I saw a man in the distance standing next to the tracks, probably 100 yards away. I didn't think anything of it at first. I thought maybe it was a city worker or a farmer. Although, as I got closer, I noticed that he wasn't working on anything, just standing there, facing in my direction. My vision is really bad, so I could not make out any detail until I was maybe like 10 to 15 feet away. But when I closed the distance, I began to notice how odd this man was. He was facing me, holding a large, old-fashioned travel trunk. I started slowing down, but I kept my guard up, thinking that this guy might be someone looking for trouble. I stopped about 5 feet in front of him, and he put his hand up to wave. He said, "Hello," and immediately I noticed his accent. German. My family's from Bavaria, and I grew up speaking German, so it was unmistakable to me. "Hi," I said. "How's it going?" He just stared at me, looking a bit confused, as if he didn't understand what I had just said. And then I noticed his clothing. The best way to describe how he was dressed is the stereotypical bartender at the saloon in every Western movie you've ever seen. He wore a Boulder Derby hat, ratty old bow tie, very old-looking trousers, and a coat. He was clutching his travel trunk and holding a pocket watch that looked to be 100 years old. He was looking at me, but it seemed like he was looking past me or through me. I thought, this is definitely some homeless guy, probably high, that stumbled onto the tracks. I was thinking of ways to get out of my situation. I'm pretty non-confrontational and I don't like to be rude, but if someone messes with me, I won't back down from a fight. However, this guy wasn't giving off malicious vibes. He only looked lost and confused. Just then, he looked at me, and this time he wasn't looking past me, but right into my eyes. I got this really weird feeling. Still, I didn't know how to describe it, and it just didn't seem right. Kind of like how it feels to stare into the blank eyes of a mannequin is maybe best. He smiled and said, I'm supposed to be on the 2 p.m. Union Pacific heading west. Do you have a recent train schedule on hand? Mine seems to be mistaken. What? I thought this guy looked like one of those character actors from old western towns and pioneer villages. What the hell was he doing out here? All alone in costume on an old train track behind a bunch of farms and subdivisions? Was I being pranked? I subtly glanced around to see if there was some hidden camera crews or something, someone in the bushes with an iPhone filming. Not knowing how to proceed, I kind of played along and said something like, no, unfortunately, I left mine at home. And I chuckled. But he didn't smile. He gave me a look of concern and said, I came upon this train schedule in the town paper. Perhaps it is mistaken? The conductor at the station assured me it was correct. He then smiled and said, you see, I'm heading out west to California. My wife and children are there waiting for me. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old sepia photo of a woman and 2 daughters, straight out of the 1800s. All right, dude, I said, what's going on? Are you messing with me? I don't want to be on a prank video or anything. I know you guys try to go viral, but I'm just trying to get my run on, man. He didn't react to this at all, just stared past me again, looking lost and confused. He met my eyes again and said, where might you be heading, traveler? I said, I'm not heading anywhere. I'm going for a run. He looked confused again and said heavily in his accented English, well, who are you running from? By now, I started to feel bad for the guy. I was pretty sure this was not a prank. This guy seemed genuinely lost and confused. I wasn't quite sure what was going on, but my apprehension turned into pity. I then took a different approach to see if my German hunch was correct and said in German, "Need man ich mach Sport," which means no one, I'm exercising. Immediately, his eyes lit up and he smiled a genuine smile of comfort that exuded friendliness. The conversation proceeded in German, but I'll give you the English version. He said, "Are you German?" I said, "Yes, I was born here, but my family and my wife's family are from Germany. They live in Bavaria. Where are you from?" "I'm from Baden-Württemberg," he said proudly. "You're very lucky to be born here. I've come for a new life for myself and my family." I noticed his German was super proper, like the way one would speak in the 1800s. It was just so odd. He used words and phrases that were completely outdated that no modern German speaker would use. He told me he came with his wife and kids to New York, when then they made their way to Kentucky and then to Fort Collins. From there, his wife and kids took a train west to California, while he stayed back to earn more money, working as a cobbler, and was planning to meet them there, and he was supposed to catch the train today at 2 p.m. to begin the journey. While I was thrilled to be practicing my German, and the guy was very friendly, I still had no idea who the fuck this was and what was going on. A cobbler? Came to New York, then Kentucky, then Colorado? This guy was definitely describing the journey of a German immigrant to America in the 1800s. Who the fuck's a cobbler anymore? All our shoes are made in China. I digress. Not really knowing how to proceed, I looked down at his travel trunk and saw the name Fisher monogrammed on it. I asked, "Is your name Fisher?" He said, "Yes, Manfred Fisher." At this point, the clouds had begun to move in and it was getting a bit chillier, and I thought I was tripping balls. Not knowing what to say next, I said, "Manfred, it's 6 p.m. and there's no train coming. These tracks appear to not have been used for quite some time." He looked concerned and said, No, the train is coming, I am sure of it, unless my train schedule is mistaken." If this guy was some character portraying a pioneer or old Western person, he didn't do the typical thing they all do when you visit those villages. You know, when they comment about your strange modern clothing, ask about your advanced technology like your phone, kind of like that hilarious South Park episode where the Pioneer Village actors refused to break character. Well, in fact, he didn't react to any of that stuff. I showed him the time on my Casio G-Shock digital watch, and he just shrugged. He didn't say anything about the clothes I was wearing, my running shoes, the distant hum of cars on Highway 60, the modern cookie-cutter subdivision homes, the distant racket being made by a farmer on his John Deere out in the distance, or the iPhone in my hand. It was like 2 dimensions had smashed together, the modern world and the old world, and he was seeing the old while I was seeing the new. Throughout the whole interaction, there was a weird feeling of a barrier between us, like an invisible wall or force field in the 2 feet that separated us as we were talking. I can't explain it, but it was as though, from each of our perspectives, the other one was not 100% there, kind of like a FaceTime call. I still had a mile to go on my run, and I still wasn't fully comprehending what was happening. But I felt bad for the guy, whoever or whatever he was. Look, Manfred, town is about a mile east. I can walk with you to the bus station. We can get your transportation figured out. I don't think there's a train coming tonight. He smiled and said that that was very kind to me, but insisted the 2 p.m. train should be here and that he would wait. It must be running late. The Western Line is always delayed these days, so I have heard. Of course, unless my schedule is mistaken. I noticed at this point that this was like the third time he had said, unless, of course, my schedule is mistaken, as if he were caught in some kind of loop. I asked him if he was sure, and he said yes, thanked me for my kindness, and then told me, good luck with your running. He said it in a way that signaled he still didn't quite understand what a run was. I asked once more if he was sure and that I was happy to walk him to town. I was really feeling for this guy. At the time, I wasn't thinking of ghosts or spirits, and nothing about the last 15 minutes had made any sense. But he was really a pleasant, kind-hearted dude that seemed lost and confused and hell-bent on catching a train that sure as shit was never going to arrive. It was beginning to lightly drizzle now, and I got little droplets accumulating on my gray shirt, so I told him I had to get going, but I hope he had a safe trip and could get to his family in California. He smiled at me and said in his old German dialect, thank you, and thank you for the company. Farewell, traveler. Perhaps we will cross paths again. He waved me off, and I continued jogging down the tracks. I looked back every 15 seconds or so and saw him growing smaller and smaller in the distance. He still had his hand up in a waving motion. The last time I looked back, I was maybe 50 yards away, and he was gone. Completely gone. 1 minute, he was standing there, and the next, nothing. I stopped and stared back for a good minute. Unless he spontaneously decided to dive into the high bushes to hide from me after waving me off, he had literally vanished. I stood there for 5 minutes, pondering what had just happened and trying to rationalize the whole interaction. I got home, said hi to my wife, and we sat down for dinner. She asked about my run, but I didn't say anything to her about the events. She is a no-nonsense person, and I'm not quite sure how she would react. And I still didn't truly understand what had happened. That night, I Googled Johnstown's history and looked at the historical records to see if I could find a Manfred Fisher, but there was nothing. Johnstown, like I said earlier, up until recently had been very obscure, small, podunk farming community with very little history of note. The only significant event to ever happen there was in the early 1900s when a meteorite landed here during a funeral procession. Fast forward to October 4th, a few days before I decided to write this all down and send it in. My wife and I were in historic Johnstown, walking around the city park. The park borders the Johnstown Cemetery. It's not at all creepy, but actually very peaceful and pretty. Lots of mature birch and blue spruce trees shading the resting places of Johnstown's past citizens. We were pushing my son in his stroller, and we came upon the oldest part of the cemetery, the area where all the graves are from the late 1800s and early 1900s. My son started screaming, needed to be changed, so I helped my wife set up our little mobile changing station as she began cleaning him up. She knew I had been really stressed with work and that I valued our walks, so she said I could stroll ahead and she would take care of business. I crossed the border into the cemetery and started looking at headstones. The events on the tracks were out of my mind by now, so when I came across a gravestone in the corner of the cemetery that read M. Fisher, 1854 to 1899, I was snapped out of my careless state. The headstone only read M, not Manfred, and Fisher is a fairly common name, especially in this area. But after recalling the events on the tracks and seeing his date of birth and date of death, I had no doubt in my mind that this was Manfred Fisher's resting place. The Manfred Fisher I had stumbled upon on my run on the old train tracks. I didn't say anything, and we continued our walk. As I'm writing this, I feel a profound sense of sadness. Clearly, Manfred never caught his 2 p.m. train, and he never made it to California to his wife and kids. I have no idea what happened to the guy, but it is apparent he spent the rest of his time on Earth in Johnstown. Later that week, I went on another run, not on the tracks, but on the main road, and went to our local market. I bought some flowers, and I jogged over to the graveyard, and they put them on his grave. His grave looked like it had been neglected for a long time. Clearly, he had no family in the area. I'm still not exactly sure what happened on the tracks that day. Maybe I ran into a temporary interruption in the space-time continuum. Or maybe he just is remnant energy from long ago, a father trying to get to his wife and his kids in California, stuck in a loop, waiting for a train that never comes. I'm not sure. I still run on those tracks nearly every day, and I have not seen him since. But honestly, I hope one of these days I do. I think our short interaction on the tracks, speaking in German, gave him more comfort than he had had in a long time. If I don't see him again, wherever he is, I hope he's at peace. Keep up the good scares. All the best to the Suckmaster and Queen of the Suck, and hail Nimrod. Nico.
Thank you, Nico. That was a really cool story.
I thought so too. I know it's a bit long, but I really appreciated all the
riveting.
texture and detail, and I thought he did a great job with it.
Yeah, Nico brought up on his own like the two dimensions colliding, and I'd written notes about that listing. I was like, oh, I gotta wonder if this is a situation where like Nico is seeing Manfred in his time, and Manfred is seeing Nico in Manfred's time.
Yeah.
Like the some weird just mistake in how time works.
A glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's I think I had like fantasies about wanting to have that happen as a kid. Like that story felt familiar to me in the sense of like my own daydreams.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, oh man, how cool would that be if I was, walking along somewhere and then I met someone from a different time. Because I read stories about I think just Charles Berlitz's book when I was a kid, World of Strange Phenomena. I'm pretty sure there was a couple little stories in there about people being like stuck out of time where they'd be found in France. I think one guy was in France or whatever. I mean, I read this like when I was a kid, so it's so many years ago. But that thing of like this guy didn't talk like anybody talked in his time. He didn't dress like anybody talked in his time. In this story, the guy actually like just made a new life for himself in his new time.
Oh my God, what if we just got transported to another time?
Yeah, well, because then after reading that story, I would have like these weird like panicky daydreams where I'm like, oh, what if I'm just walking around town, or what if I'm coming home from school and all of a sudden I get sucked into a different time where I don't know anybody.
That would be so scary as a kid, actually.
Oh my God, yeah.
As an adult, we'd be sad for the life we left behind, but we'd be like, this is fucking crazy.
I know, it'd be such a mix of emotion, like so sad actually, that you're not going to be able to probably see anybody from your previous life, not your kids, not your spouse. So devastating in one sense, but also you're like, holy shit, like reality is not what I thought it was.
It would be best if you could come back.
Of course.
If you could find the way back.
And then come back. Yeah. I'm sure there's been movies about that. But yeah, that was a really cool story. I also had this thought, I just wrote this note down, a weird thought at one point in the story where I'm like, okay, what if like Manfred was an alien?
Oh.
And like, so aliens come down and they come down in like the late 1800s. And they're like, okay, we're gonna do some recon. These are how people dress. These are how people talk.
Yeah, sure.
And then we're gonna go back and then we're gonna bring some more, spies to drop off. But they just don't realize like how much time has passed when they come back. And so they drop off a guy that's like 125 years too late.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
What if all aliens are German travelers?
German cobblers. And also I thought like when Nico said I hope to see Manfred again, I'm like, what if he saw him again and he was like, you gotta get away from this train. Something goes on.
Oh, like he tries
to warn him. Like you gotta find a new way to get to California. I don't know.
I don't think it works.
But we don't know that that's how he dies.
Yeah. But I do agree with Nico's conclusion. I don't think that Manfred ever makes it to his family.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
Or what if he made it to his family, had a nice life in California, but he was like, you know what? Johnstown was so cool.
Then why isn't his wife also buried by him?
Because I don't know. Yeah, never mind.
Sorry.
I probably didn't make it.
Yeah. Probably. And it's... honestly, I had the thought, I'm like, I wonder if he stepped out onto the tracks looking for the train and got hit by the train. Like,
oh my gosh,
because if he's stuck at the train,
it
just makes me think that he may have died at the train station.
Yeah, maybe.
Sad.
Maybe it was good that Nico didn't look back more often. Maybe he would have looked back once and seen Manfred get blasted.
Oh, don't say that.
I don't know.
Nico doesn't need that in his mind.
Okay.
So those are my stories this week.
Those were great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you're most welcome, Dan. I love to be here with you.
I love to be here with you. And now, who wants to thank Annabelle's first? Do you want to, or do you want me to?
Sure, I can go first.
That was a weird way for me to ask that question. Who wants to? Like, as if you
what
magically
if I was like,
know, you're like, oh, I know that you want to. You want to more than me. I can tell.
I have an imaginary friend here, and they want to go first. Yes, thank you, Annabelle's, for your support on Patreon and for making every month's donations possible to all of our patrons. We will have the November charity announcement coming up in the next couple of episodes. Carrie Conte, Riv Howell, Caitlin Strauss, Ross E. or Rossi. It's like Rosse.
Huh. Rosse.
Rosse?
I think, or just Ross. I don't know.
I don't know. Early Graybeard, Brenna Blanchard, Wheels 181,
Okay.
and Michelle Vance.
Well, thank you all. And I would like to thank the following: Shelby Boyd, Jesse Minicillo, SPT Terry, Megan Orions, Julie, Brenda Durant. Very confident about Brenda Durant. I have nailed that name perfectly. Alexandra Ashman and Tiffany Ojeda.
I think you did pretty well on those as well.
I think I did.
Yeah. All right. A handful of spoopy shout outs this week. To J-Dog from Courtney. Thanks for turning me on to this amazing podcast. It gets me through the hard days. And thanks for your stupid humor that brightens my days at work. You know, a good work friend can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
You guys make friends at work. 2K from K, happy belated 39th birthday. The past 2 years might have been rough as hell, but you're still standing. Here's to another year. To Erica and her partner, my new besties from New York, from Kimberly, from Texas, thank you for hanging out with me briefly during your trip across haunted Texas. Meeting you guys will be added to one of my top 10 lifetime memories. Welcome to the Scared to Death family. To Diane from Diane, you're a half a century old. You still have much to see and do. Age is just a number. Your soul is young. Don't let your nemesis tell you otherwise. Never ignore the voices in your head. Never ignore the voices you hear, and let the next 50 be full of adventure, you crazy creeper. Scorpios rule, which they do. Okay. To Jade from Dan, keep up the good work. You're almost to the finish line of your weight loss goal. Thank you for everything you do and for putting up with me and the kiddos. We are a handful. And that is it.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, everyone, for sending those in. And thanks again to our Annabelles for supporting the show. And that is our show. Thank you for continuing to send in your personal tales of terror to mystory@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. You can continue to email us for everything else at info@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. Thank you to Logan Keith, scoring today's show, to Heather Rylander, organizing the My Story emails, and to book editor Drew Atana, polishing and preparing listener stories for book number 7. I was able to find both of my stories this week. We are on Facebook and Instagram, where we post pics that accompany episodes and more at Scared to Death Podcast. We also have a private Facebook group, Creeps and Peepers, full of fellow horror lovers, moderated by the All-Seeing Eyes, who keep this community fantastic. Enjoy your nightmares, Creeps and Peepers. Hope you were scared to death.
Bye.
If spirits threaten me in this place, fight water by water and fire by fire. Banish their souls into nothingness and remove their powers until the last trace. Let these evil beings flee through time and space. Evil may pass through, but hath no home here within, scared to death.
Mad Magic Productions.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
wake up to the smell of bacon and fresh biscuits in the oven.
Oh,
and
fresh
some,
squeezed OJ.
oh, yeah, some gravy.
Oh,
And you're
man.
just
Do you wanna
like, oh,
have-
thank you, ghost.